Well, world leaders are beginning to arrive at the Vatican as the time nears for the funeral of the late Pope Francis. The former pontiff is currently lying in state at St Peter's Basilica ahead of his funeral on Saturday. With the guest list including Prince William, Donald Trump, Volodymyr Zelensky and Australia's Governor-General Sam Mostyn. Joining us now is Vatican correspondent Colin Flynn, live in Vatican City. Good morning to you. Tell us how preparations are going for the funeral, particularly keeping all these world leaders safe.
Yeah, a very good morning to you, Nat, and good evening from the Eternal City. Great to see you again. And I wish I could show you just what the scene is like here around me this evening, because there are still tens of thousands of people queuing, trying to get into St. Peter's Basilica to pay their last respects to Pope Francis. In fact, we were told that since we last spoke yesterday, 90,000 people have passed through that basilica to see Pope Francis. So we're gearing up for the funeral, which is going to be a huge affair this Saturday. We have, as you say, world leaders coming from around the world. And you can imagine, Nat, because technically Vatican City State is an independent nation, the security, logistical nightmare it is really for both the Swiss Guard and the Vatican Special Police, because when they land here at the airport, all these dignitaries and world leaders, they will be protected by the Italian police and the Italian military. But as soon as they get to the gates of St. Peter's, then it is the responsibility of the Vatican to protect these people. Not only that, but we have, of course, faithful coming from around the world, particularly young people, because Saturday it was actually meant to be originally the canonization of a young saint. So already there were thousands of young people coming for that canonization, and to see this young person be lifted into sainthood. So instead of that canonization, they will be attending the funeral. And Nat, before we leave you, I can tell you some other details that we've heard today. A beautiful, actually, story was released by a gentleman who runs a charity here in Rome. And he announced to the Italian media that just before Pope Francis passed away, he had donated €200,000 from his own bank account to a juvenile prison here in the center of Rome. It's actually a factory within the prison that produces pasta, of all things, and it gives young offenders a second chance in life. So now they have this lifeline, €200,000 given by Pope Francis, a final wish just before he passed.
Wow, okay, that is fascinating information. Look, talk to us about Francis. He was a simple man despite being Pope, famously going around in his Fiat hatchback. He wanted a simple funeral. What will it be like?
You know, I think there is no such thing as a simple Vatican funeral. It will be filled with pomp and ceremony and all that rich tradition and culture that you associate with the Catholic Church. But you're absolutely right. Like we've been saying, most of the popes are buried there right behind me inside that basilica. But after the funeral, they will make the 20-minute journey through the streets of Rome, all closed off, all escorted by the Italian police, going to the Basilica of St. Mary Major. And another thing we were told by the Vatican today, in keeping with the ethos of Pope Francis, wanting to live with the poor, for the poor, why he took the name Francis after St. Francis of Assisi, famous for his devotion to the poverty and those in need. The Vatican have told us that the final people to pray for the Pope as he goes into that basilica and is carried in, there on the steps of the basilica will be a group of people who are poor, who are needy here in Rome. They wanted to come and pay their last respects, and they will be the last people saying goodbye to Pope Francis.
Yeah, that's a beautiful touch. Colin, thank you, as always, for keeping us up to date. An enormous weekend, and then we go into the conclave. We'll cross back to you soon. Here's Sherba.